Well, GM says some dumb stuff, then they do some dumb stuff, and somehow talking about cars means politics. I'm Rob. Welcome to Riding with Rob. So, what I want to talk about today is GM. That's right, General friggin' Motors. Why are we talking about GM? Well, look, if you're not aware, they've been in the news a little bit. Why? Because after back in 2008 taking a massive government bailout and then apparently continuing to receive subsidies from the United States government, is now in financial trouble. Big friggin' surprise. Real big surprise that a company who couldn't manage their money to begin with, once given a whole bunch of money, still couldn't manage it. I mean, come on guys, this is common sense. Now look, GM wants to go off and they want to blame the president or the government or steel prices or whatever, but look, I'm going to call bullshit on all of that, okay? First of all, it's definitely not the government's fault that you guys are bad with money. If anything, if you want to blame the government, I blame them for giving you the money to begin with. It was a dumb decision. You guys just should have been left to die off or be sold off or bought up by the next bigger, better company so you could actually fix the way you run things. You want to blame the prices on steel going up because of tariffs and trade wars and all the other craziness that takes place, but yet the corporate taxes were just lowered to the lowest they've been in the United States since I've been alive. So if you got to pay a pinch more for steel, but all your taxes are lower, and furthermore, you've got companies like BMW and Toyota who are making more and more factories here in the United States, and somehow that they're not affected by that. So what's your excuse? Well, look, GM's not going to tell you the truth, and I am. I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth is that GM has been making terrible, ugly, unreliable vehicles for a long time. And to make matters worse, they continuously build copycats of their own cars where they end up competing with themselves. Look, it's one thing, Ford has the Taurus and you have the Impala, you guys are competing. That's a good thing. Because if you draw the money from the people that want the Taurus or thought they wanted the Taurus but decided they would buy the Impala instead, you're gaining business. But when you make the Impala and then the Buick Regal, and they're the same chassis, engine, everything. They're the same car with a different, not even a different body. I want to say a different body, but really different front and rear bumpers and some different lights. And some emblems, right? The Buick's got a slightly different interior. Seriously, all you're doing is taking people that like the Impala and having them buy from you also again, but they're buying a Buick this time. What's the difference? And further, it's so frustrating because it's like, that's what got you in trouble. That's why you had to close down Pontiac, and that's why you had to close down Saab, and Saab's a different story. But you had to close down all these different factories and all these different brands, Saturn and all that. Why? Because they all made the same car. Why is it that I could buy a Chevy Cobalt and a Pontiac G4 or whatever they were called? It's the same car. Why would I buy a Grand Am or a Grand Prix when I could buy the G6? And those were basically the same cars at the time. And then you talk about the Saturn. Saturn finally came out with like a nice car, and probably honestly had one of the best interiors any GM car has ever had, and that's the Saturn Aurora. But at the end of the day, who's going to buy that car? The Impala owner, the Malibu owner. And look, GM, you've made all your cars look the same. They all look the same, but slightly different sizes. I couldn't tell you the difference between a Malibu, an Impala, and the Chevy SS sedan unless you stuck them all right next to each other. And I was able to examine them like I'm looking for friggin' Waldo over here. Listen, GM, I don't want to hear your excuses about the government this or tariffs and look, I called you out on this years ago when you first did it. But you took the big government bailout, not so you could save jobs here in America, not so you could keep factories open and be nice to the American people whose money you are stealing. But instead you took that money and you opened brand new factories in China. Like almost immediately. For a lot of you out there who have bought Buicks or GMs, there's a strong chance you bought a Chinese car. Not maybe that you bought a very strong chance that you did. I know for a fact that the Buick Envoy, those were all made in China. If you have a Buick Envoy, take a closer look at it. It's probably made in China. But what do most people think? Oh, I'm buying American. I'm buying an American. You're not buying an American brand. Chevy hasn't been an American brand for a long time. And they proved that beyond a reasonable doubt by taking the American taxpayers' money. That proved right there that they were un-American. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, politics and this guy, I don't like the president, whatever. I don't care about any of this. You know what I care about? I care about cars. Okay? And the manufacturers of cars have to make good decisions, otherwise they're going to fall flat on their face. They're going to fail. But when you have the government stepping in, and you've got the government basically propping up all these different companies, right? You take a look at Chrysler, for instance. Chrysler also got bailed out. Why am I not here ragging on Chrysler? Chrysler's not closing any American plants. Chrysler's opening American plants. Chrysler's bringing new brands that are part of their new auto group here to America. Like the car I'm driving now, the Fiat 500, basically, I mean the car that saved Fiat, but the car that saved Chrysler. Because of this little car selling in massive, insane amounts of numbers, I mean, there were waiting lists in Europe. You couldn't just go out and buy one. You had to be put on a waiting list for a Fiat 500. Okay, we're not talking about I put on a waiting list because I didn't get the new Ferrari, right? No, we're talking about the Fiat 500. There was a waiting list for them. They're such a good-selling car. But Chrysler did take a government bailout. And then what happened? Fiat was able to slowly acquire those stocks through the government. But let's be honest, they probably took way longer to buy it through the government, and it probably was way more costly to Fiat than if Fiat had just been able to go straight to Chrysler, buy out their shares, and revamp them. They've probably been revamped sooner. We'd probably see a bigger Chrysler than it is right now, and you'd probably see a bigger Fiat presence here in the United States. Not that it's not growing, it's growing quite rapidly. So, what I'm trying to say is, GM, you guys royally screwed the pooch, and you're trying to blame other people. Listen, if you're a new car buyer, don't buy a GM. If you're going out there looking for a car to buy that's brand new, don't buy a GM. Just don't. Why would you? You can buy a Subaru that's made in Illinois, or a Toyota that's made in Texas, a Honda that's made in Ohio. You go out and buy a new GM, what'd you get? A Mexican-made Impala, a Canadian-made Spark, perhaps you got the Chinese-made Envoy. Seriously, they've drilled this into your head for so long that they're somehow an American company. They've lost that a long, long time ago. They stopped caring about the American people and only started caring about themselves and lining their pockets. Look, and I'm not saying that that's wrong for a business to do. You should obviously be trying to be more profitable. But if your idea of being more profitable is competing against yourself for your own buyer's attention, putting out cars that are unreliable, ugly, and crappy that don't compare to the competition. What's their best-selling car right now? The Cruze, the Chevy Cruze. Compare a Chevy Cruze to a Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, Nissan Sentra, Subaru Impreza, Ford Focus. I mean, seriously. The older Ford Focuses that we first got, they weren't very popular when they came here. There was no reason for them to be. We didn't have the cool Focuses that they had overseas. We didn't have the Focus RS. We didn't have the ST. We didn't have all that cool stuff that we have now. But it still existed. But I mean, that car, way better quality than any of the Cruzes. And then also, did you notice the design of the Cruze? It went from this more Impala look to a more Hyundai look. Did you notice that? Put a Cruze next to an Elantra. Like a 4-year-old Elantra and a brand new Chevy Cruze, you'd be like... Because what happened, GM hired the guy that Hyundai fired. Look, if you're trying to make a nice car, you're trying to make something that looks cool, and Hyundai fired him, look, nothing against Hyundai, but you have to remember it wasn't even 10 years ago that you could buy a brand new Hyundai for $4,000 and, you know, maybe get 20, 30,000 miles out of it before it started to fall apart. Compared to where they are now. You know, GM, Hyundai seemed to do just fine. Oh, maybe because they made smart choices and good decisions? Yeah. Look, you want to find somebody to blame, stand in front of a mirror and point the darn finger. And as far as trying to threaten the government to close more plants because you think it's going to get you more money, you know what I say? I'm sorry for all the guys that are going to get laid off and lose their jobs. That's horrible. That's the worst thing that can happen to somebody, honestly. It's absolutely terrible. But you should at least feel assured that there's 7 million unfilled jobs currently and that the current unemployment rate is lower than it's been since the 1950s. So if GM was going to close down some factories and go completely bankrupt and fail, now's the time. Now's the time. When there's still plenty of jobs to be gotten, the economy is still booming, and there's room in there for a new auto manufacturer to pick up the pieces that was GM and make themselves something new, something awesome. Look, there's a million different ways you can bring people back to your brand. But you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to keep winding up in the same spot over and over again. So go ahead, close down your factories, stop making cars. You know, Mitsubishi did that a while ago. Other than the new Mirage, Mitsubishi only makes SUVs. SUVs are profitable. There's a large market for SUVs. And everybody needs a different size SUV, right? Everybody has, someone like the really small ones, someone like the really big ones. Someone wants a big one, but not too big. You know, the whole Goldilocks effect is going on with the SUV market. So I'd say that's a good idea. You should go to trucks. Ford's doing it. Mitsubishi did it. There's a lot of really good cars in the car market, and let's be honest, you don't make a lot of really good cars. You make one or two really good ones. So, for all of you out there that are wondering what on earth you just watched, this is Riding with Rob. This is what I do. I get on the camera, I tell you what I'm thinking, I tell you what's going on. So please tune in next time where we'll be talking about something completely different, and hopefully we don't have to get so political. So let's stick to cars, shall we? Government can just go away. Leave us alone. Stop trying to regulate my exhaust system and how loud my blow-off valve can be, okay? Alright guys, I'm Rob, and as always, make sure you enjoy your drive.